All right, so have you ever been on vacation, maybe somewhere like Europe, and thought, wait, how much did I actually just spend in dollars? Or,
Or maybe you're online shopping and see like a gadget that's way cheaper in another country,
yeah,
even after you like factor in the exchange rate.
yeah, exactly. Well, today we are going deep on a concept that helps explain all that. It's called purchasing power parity, or PPP.
PPP, it's basically trying to understand how money, your money, doesn't have the same buying power everywhere you go. PPP, it tries to make sense of how those exchange rates that go up and down like crazy line up with what you can buy in different countries.
So it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges, but with currencies,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it. Imagine like a world where the same basket of goods, like your bread, milk, that fancy imported cheese you like, those things should theoretically cost the same in the US. And say France, once you do that whole exchange rate calculation, that's PPP in a nutshell.
So it's not about just comparing a single thing, like that cup of coffee, but the overall cost of a bunch of stuff, right?
Got it. Like you said, a coffee might be, I don't know, €2 in Paris
Yeah.
and then $3 in New York. If you just convert the currency, you'd think Paris is cheaper. But PPP goes deeper. You got to compare a whole range of stuff, groceries, rent, to see where your money really gets you more.
Now, this is making me think of that Big Mac index. Is that like a simplified way to think about this whole PPP thing?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a fun, simple way to wrap your head around it. They compare Big Mac prices everywhere because it's, basically the same sandwich everywhere. And if it's more expensive in one country after, like you convert it to dollars, it could mean their currency is overvalued.
I'm with you. This is making sense. But is there like actual historical data on this? Or is it just a theory?
Oh, there's tons of data. We're talking about data on the US dollar and British pound going all the way back to the 1800s.
Wow. Okay. So economists have been thinking about this for a long time. What does all that data actually tell us about PPP?
Well, by looking at these long periods of time, economists try to figure out if this PPP idea holds true over, different time frames. And it's not always perfect, especially in the short term.
So you're saying that croissant I want in Paris might not perfectly match the PPP prediction, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. Real life is messy, There are shipping costs, taxes, even governments doing things with exchange rates. All these things can make prices different in the short term from what, pure PPP would tell us.
Okay, so far we know that PPP exists, has for a long time, and while not perfect, it's useful. But why should our listeners care? We'll tackle that right after this. And we're back. So we've been digging into this idea of purchasing power parity, or PPP. But the real question is, why should you care?
Yeah, that's the key, and it's not just some abstract theory. It actually affects how we see the world, like especially when we compare lifestyles across different countries. If you only look at exchange rates, you might be missing a big part of the picture.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. Make it real for us.
All right, imagine you're looking for a job, right? You find this awesome opportunity. Let's say it's in Tokyo. The salary's a bit lower than you'd expect in, say, New York. But here's where PPP comes in.
So what you're saying is the cost of living in Tokyo, what you can actually buy with that salary, could be way different.
Exactly. That salary that looks lower on paper, it might actually go a lot further in Tokyo. Rent, food, transportation, all that could be cheaper even after you do the currency conversion.
So PPP helps us understand, like, the real value of our money, whatever currency it is, in different places.
Exactly. It's not just about how many dollars or euros or yen you have. It's about what you can actually do with that money in a specific country. And this is huge for things like understanding global economics.
Okay, now you've got my attention. How does PPP play into that?
Well, think about it. Organizations like the World Bank, they use PPP adjustments when they compare economies and living standards around the world. It gives them a much clearer picture than just looking at those raw GDP numbers, which, let's be honest, can be all over the place because of those exchange rate swings.
So PPP is kind of like leveling the playing field, yeah.
Yeah.
It helps us make fair comparisons about costs of living and all that.
Exactly. It helps us understand things like why a country with a lower income on paper might actually have a higher quality of life if you factor in what people can actually afford there.
Wow, okay. You've definitely given me a new way to think about the global economy. Are there any other ways besides like the World Bank stuff that PPP is used in the real world?
Oh, tons. Remember the Big Mac index we talked about earlier? It sounds kind of funny, yeah, but it shows how PPP can reveal if a currency is overvalued or undervalued.
Right, because a Big Mac is like basically the same everywhere.
Exactly. It's a simple way to show that prices really are different in different countries.
Okay, so We've covered a lot of good stuff about PPP, but we got to address the elephant in the room, right? Like we said earlier, it's not a perfect system. What are the challenges, the things that make PPP tricky to use?
Well, the real world, it's messy.
Wow.
PPP, it works best in theory, where everything's easy to trade. But in real life, there are always obstacles.
Okay, like what? Give us the rundown.
Well, for one, there's always shipping costs, tariffs, taxes, all those things. These can cause prices to be different, and it's not just about the exchange rate.
So something might be cheaper to make in one country, but all those extra costs make it more expensive somewhere else.
Exactly. And then there are what we call non-tradable goods. Things like haircuts, housing, local services. Those are hard to factor in because you can't just ship them across borders.
So that leather jacket might be a steal in Italy, but getting your hair done in Paris, that's going to depend on local prices.
You got it. Plus, don't forget about governments. Sometimes they step in and try to control their exchange rates. They have their reasons, but it definitely makes things more complicated.
Yeah, like trying to herd cats, I imagine. So PPP gives us a framework, but it's not a perfect crystal ball. But even with those limitations, is it still useful? More on that after the break. All right, so we've gone deep on this whole purchasing power parity thing.
PPP, yeah, it's a mouthful.
Wow, it is.
Hmm.
But it's been super interesting to unpack it all.
Yeah, it seems kind of complicated at first, but when you really get into it, it's fascinating. All these global connections.
Totally. So let's bring it all home for our listeners. We started off talking about how PPP is this idea that exchange rates, they should kind of match up with the differences in prices between countries.
Right. Like, ideally, your dollar should have the same power to buy stuff no matter where you are in the world.
Exactly. But we also talked about how, the real world doesn't always play by the rules.
Oh, yeah, there are always curveballs.
Totally. Like those short-term changes in exchange rates, those can be affected by all sorts of things like shipping costs, what governments are doing, even those non-tradable goods we talked about.
Yeah, it's tough to predict exactly what's going to happen.
It really is. Like trying to guess if it's going to rain tomorrow, you might have a general idea, but then, surprise, you need an umbrella.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. But, just like weather patterns, things tend to even out over longer periods.
So we probably can't use PPP to figure out exactly how much our gondola ride in Venice is going to cost.
Probably not for that.
But it does help us understand broadly why our money might stretch further in some places than others.
Yeah, for sure. That's what makes PPP such a powerful tool, not just for, economics nerds like us.
Right. Anyone who travels internationally, thinks about investing in other countries, or even just wants to understand how the global economy works, PPP is for them.
For sure. So it helps you decode those prices when you're in a new place.
And it reminds us that, the value of money changes depending on where you are.
All relative, right?
Yeah.
What you can actually buy with it, that's what matters.
Exactly. So next time you're planning a trip abroad, or just curious about how different economies compare, think about PPP.
It's not just some boring economics theory.
It's a whole new way to see the world.
And understand how connected we all are through prices, exchange rates, all of it.
Well said. And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into purchasing power parity. Thanks for joining us, everyone.